Well, yes, everybody. What is going on? This is your man, Martin Anaya, and you are watching the inaugural The Breakdown. Now, let me explain for you. The breakdown, of course, is a film term that is what we do when we break down a script to find out how much money we don't have to spend. But for our purposes today, the breakdown is going to mean all things cinema. And specifically in this particular episode, we're going to be talking about all things the awards season, which is already, believe it or not, upon us, even though it is March. Normally we'd be pretty much done with awards season. But this being a pandemic year, it's going to be a little bit different. In just a moment here, I'm going to introduce my two esteemed and valuable cohort who I have paid the exact sum of $0 to be here with us today. But that is not to say anything about their value, because their value is immeasurable. But before we do that, we just want to tell you that this is being brought to you by the California Film Foundation. That is the website right there. It's californiafilm.net. And what we do in a pre-pandemic world was every first Saturday of the month, we did this basic conversation with filmmakers, but it was a live thing. So now, of course, in this post-pandemic era, we've got to, tinker with it a little bit. And so we're redubbing it The Breakdown, and thus we're going to bring it to you worldwide. So you don't have to be in Sacramento or the Bay Area or in our physical presence. At you. All right. So with that said, please do go and join and become a member of CaliforniaFilm.net. If and when this thing ever does show up on YouTube or wherever, you know what to do. Smash the like button, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Now, having said that, I got to bring my brother from another mother in here. His name is Dennis Willis. Now, Dennis Willis, the man, the myth, the legend. Hey, Dennis, what's going on, my brother?
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Now, I gotta introduce you because I got bad news for you, man. Your bio's not getting it anymore. Your bio here.
I have not updated that in quite a while.
No, you got to get on that, bro. Your bio says an American film critic, radio and television personality, and it goes on to mention Flick Nation Radio. But you've got a lot of stuff. I mean, obviously, you are an author. You have done. You're a filmmaker in your own right. You've done movies, all kinds of wonderful stuff. But talk to us about sound waves, man. That's what's going on with you right now. Talk to us about that if you don't mind.
Well, sound waves is it's kind of my main thing right now. And I have to say the pandemic's allowed me a lot of time to work on it. So that's kind of fun. But, as legend goes, I started when I was a teenager at my local access TV station. You know something about that.
A little bit.
And we did it for a long time, and then we took it off because everything had changed. And I'd been a film critic for years at KGO. And then KGO, being a corporate entity, they swallowed up a bunch of other radio stations. And then I found myself down the hall from the Bone, and I'd go down there and say hi to everybody. And then I met Chasta, who works on the Bone. And,
oh my God, Chasta, the angel from heaven that dropped into your lap.
Oh man. And it was as organic. We had no plans to do a music show. We thought the format was dead. Nobody's going to care. And then we realized it was almost kind of like a moral objective, because what happened between 2010 and now is that all the corporate radio stations started playing the same stuff. And those playlists come out of Atlanta. Yep. And we were like, nobody's playing all this amazing stuff that's coming out of the Bay Area.
No.
And you look back at the history, and if that was the case back in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, we would have never heard the bands that changed the world. And so we were like, we're going to do this. And so that's kind of been our mission. We've done 80 shows. This year we'll hit our 100th. We've got a killer season, and we're in post-production now, and we air on Coffee TV 20 as well as online. So there's the pitch.
Yeah. Coffee TV, man. And for those of you who don't know, Coffee TV is the venerated station from the Bay Area, TV 20. If you're in the Bay Area, they had these. They did this crazy thing, like it's called local production.
Go figure.
Like, I want to say, it's a Creature Features. Is it?
Creature Features. We're following Creature Features this year.
So you got Creature Features leads into Sound Waves now. Is that how it goes?
That is correct, sir. We're going to be on 11 o'clock on Saturday night. So what happened last year? We used to have a set, which is it was a Green Room Music Center, which is co-owned by Chasta and her husband. And we would go in every week, we throw up the lights, and we bring in the cameras, and we do our show, and everybody was like, that looks great. And then the pandemic hit, and we're like, we're doing it from home now, which is why I've spent the last 2 months converting my background, because one of our musicians said that my set looked like a teenage boy's bedroom. So I'm like, okay, note to self. Note to self.
That is a compliment.
I'm gonna take a look at that. And so up went some posters and cool lights and an album rack and all that stuff. So I'm ready for season 4, man. I'm ready
to rock. And by the way, we could talk all day about Soundwaves, but tell me real quickly, season 4's got a little change to the
little extra going on. Yeah, it's Stephen Kirk and Shasta and myself, and we're gonna have an extended cast and crew with Morris Knight, Dana Keys, Baby Huey, and basically when we say we're covering Bay Area and the West Coast, the best coast in music, basically what that means is that we're not just going to be playing music you've never heard of. We're going to be dipping into some incredible history and anniversaries. We've got some big guests coming up that are going to surprise some folks. I'm doing one on Tuesday. I'm going to believe it once it's actually in the can. But if this one that happens on Tuesday happens, it is going to be a Grammy Award winner, potentially Oscar Award winner, and it's going to be amazing. So this year is going to be great.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And speaking of Oscars, we're going to be talking about that today. Again, what we're talking about today, folks, if you're just now joining us, you're looking at the inaugural The Breakdown. I'm talking to my man, Dennis Willis. And Dennis, I need you to help me introduce this next fella, because this is a guy who also has, just as your current bio is a little bit lacking in your cool new stuff that you're doing. Let me just read you Jeff's bio here, okay? This is my buddy Jeff Cleary, and it says, Jeff's pre-pandemic credits include voted #1 San Francisco regional trivia host by the Hollywood International Press, no less.
Nice.
Co-producer of the San Francisco Comedy and Burrito Festival, because what's comedy without burritos? And by the way, coined the phrase, this guy knows what I'm talking about. And which, by the way, is trademarked, and I do believe it's true. 9-year host of open mic comedy in San Francisco, 1997 Southwest Division mayonnaise eating semifinalist. How many people can say that?
How many people?
And co-host and co-creator of SF BarKast, which I must say, while he was doing it, and of course, pandemic, of course, being what it is, it's kind of hard to do the bar thing in San Francisco, but was my favorite podcast done in a bar with drunk people, hands down. Hands down. So a lot of other stuff he's got on here, but without further ado, let me do us all a big favor and bring in my brother from another mother, Mr. Jeff Cleary. Jeff, what's going on, buddy?
Jeff. Thank you, Martin, Dennis. It's good to be here. You guys are great.
It's good. It's good to be with you, bro. What's going on, man?
Not much. Doing a lot of laundry and during the pandemic, and trying to ride my bike a lot more.
That's important.
Yeah, but
look, man, I mean, when laundry calls,
yeah, it's like
happens.
As soon as you can't gather anymore, like stand-up comedy is basically all online, and it's terrible.
It is, but you know what? I got to ask you this. I would think a lot less laundry to do, because I mean, it's only you got to impress at this point, right?
You'd be amazed, like sometimes when you have so much time on your hands, you're just like, I know I already washed that, I'll wash it again. So you gotta have little goals.
Well, and and the little extra stains that you just couldn't get out, and you used to go, all right, I'm just gonna let that slide, but now you can work on that stuff. You can get to the finer stains.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like I'm cleaner now that I don't go outside anymore.
But did this process start with the Devil's Tower pile of clothes in the living room? Was it one of those things?
It started with mashed potatoes, and then we moved on to laundry.
Outstanding.
That's right. Well, look, we're going to move on to today, and we might get a little dirty laundry in there too, because I expect to chop it up. If you guys got hard takes, I would ask you to bring them. But Jeff did us a favor here. As the world's greatest trivia host, he actually put together almost like a little itinerary here, because what we're talking about is award season. And I've got all these wonderful movies, Nomadland, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, The Assistant, Small Acts, Dick Johnson Is Dead, First Cow, and it goes on. And I definitely want to get to these films and talk about from the standpoint of worthiness. And you guys got to bear with me here. I'm the indie film guy, which means I've watched 500 movies nobody else will ever see except except at a film festival. You guys are the ones that I'm going to be depending on to get me through this as far as the movies that should rightfully be winning awards. But I also want to talk a little bit about the process, about the animal. And I know Dennis has done a very good effort, because we've had Dennis in person when there was a pre-pandemic, to really kind of explain to us what this award season animal is all about. But Dennis, if you don't mind, you just kind of give us just a thumbnail sketch, take us through what is award season, and then how do these different award shows kind of lead up to the Oscars?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I'm no historian, but everybody grew up in the 20th century watching the Oscars. And what's funny is that it's what we didn't see behind the curtain was that all of the groups that pre-voted we never saw that before, like the Screen Actors Guild, and then after a while they started putting out stuff on TV, and then critics groups jumped in, and so now there's 1,000 different markers along the way where you can kind of see where it's kind of like when you're watching your favorite team, you can kind of see where they are in the ranking based on who they're playing and how it's going. And then of course you enter the postseason. And so it's kind of where we're at right now. And so it's that's kind of the behind the scenes thing. Here's my first complaint. My first complaint, though, and I love award seasons. I often say it's my Super Bowl, but I'm loving it less these days, and I'll tell you why. And that's because it's not about what movies are worthy. That's a subjective argument. Everybody's going to have the Pulp Fiction versus Forrest Gump argument until the end of time. That should have won. Okay, fine. It's all subjective. Art is subjective, and that's wonderful. That's why it's always a great conversation. What I like isn't what you like, but I'd like to hear what you like, because But anyway, the real conversation, though, for me, the real complaint is that whatever wins early continues winning, because voters are sheep. And it's easier to rubber stamp something. So I'm not saying Nomadland isn't a great film. It is a great film. But if it wins first, it's going to continue winning. And so for me as a voter, when I'm getting a ton of links and DVDs and I'm like, I don't know where to start. There's a million movies to watch and I'm busy. So what helps me is when the race begins to solidify a little bit. You look at some of those early critics groups. Okay, well, that's doing well and that's doing well. I'll watch those. That's the problem. The problem is there's so much noise that you rely on the gatekeepers to kind of guide you to what's going to be the films, and then you end up with the same 10 movies at the end. I don't know if that's the best process, but it is what it is, and it's a little frustrating, but it's also pretty easy after a while. You go, well, I got to watch those movies. Yeah. Because that over there that I loved doesn't have a shot.
So already we've seen what Golden Globes was last week. Is that right?
That was the first one. That's the other thing is the Golden Globes is such a it's such a wiffle ball of an award show. I mean, it really is, and yet what wins that sets the tone.
Okay,
that's the first one out of the gate.
What were the big movies? And again, we can talk TV and all the rest of it. Let's just talk movies. Let's just talk cinema for now.
Well, what's interesting is that everything blurred in the last year. So movie studios realized there weren't any movie theaters. So they were like, okay, let's put this out.
It seemed like about, what was it? I mean, it only seems like just maybe 5 years ago that it was, I want to say Netflix that really started doing that. Or maybe it was HBO first. It's all a blurred.
Prime.
Yeah, but I mean, what they would do was they would release and help me out with this, Dennis. So they would release in the theaters, but they would release like in 12 theaters in New York and LA. Right? Am I right?
It's the contention run. I mean, in the fine print is that if you want to be considered for an Oscar in particular, you need to play in New York and LA for X amount of days in X amount of theaters. And so they played that game. But that kind of went out, pardon me, that went out the window this year because nobody went to theaters. And so they extended award season to the end of April, and then they opened it up. They said, okay, if it was a movie and it aired anywhere, it's a contender, okay. And, but I think last year was a really good year. And I think more people have seen these movies because they went to HBO Max or they, played on Netflix.
Well, I really want to talk about that too, but let's just for now, just because, the truth in advertising, what I'd like to do is kind of, okay. So let's set the stage here. So we got Golden Globes, and then what's this weekend, or is it
Critics' Choice Awards? And I voted in that one.
Okay.
I'm a member.
Now,
And then they pretty much stack up SAG and Directors Guild and all that until we get to the Oscars in April, late April, I think. It's late April.
The nominations come out on the 15th.
Right. Yes. So just a few days.
All right. So here's kind of what I want to know. What do you guys, in your own estimation right now, and given that we've already we got the choo-choo train going down the track with what Dennis just said with respect to last week, what do you guys see? And Jeff, I'm going to throw this over to you. What do you see as the contenders right now for Best Picture? Let's just talk Best Picture for a minute.
Well, like Dennis said, I feel like after the Golden Globes, after Nomadland wins the Golden Globe Award, it has a lot of steam behind it, which is interesting because it is an indie film. It's not a Hollywood film. Maybe maybe because of the pandemic, it's a 100%. Good year for like smaller films to get recognized. Like you're not going to have Titanic winning Best Picture or something like that this year. So I feel
what's the competition though? If there's 9 other films that could be the contenders, even though it was 20. So, did they wait a minute? Hold on, I got to ask this question. So it was 10, and now it's 20 now.
No. It's up to 10.
Okay. All right.
So, but
it was originally 5. I'm trying to get it straight. It was originally 5 for Best Picture for Oscar, right? Mm-hmm. And then they doubled it. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think like
5 of them are just in there just to be in there. Is that right? I mean, there 5 of them have really no shot. I mean, am I overbloviating that?
I feel like they're doing what like the NCAA basketball tournament does. It's like the more teams, the better. More people watch. The more
everybody's got a dog in the hunt now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Even though your team has no chance, you can still watch.
Yeah. Sacramento Kings made the 8th spot in the Western Division in a crappy year by the skin off their chinny chin, but they've got a shot. It could happen for them, right?
It could happen.
Don't stop believing.
Don't stop believing.
The other movies I think that look like they're going to be nominated are Mank, that's a Hollywood film. Like it's very much they're going to be celebrated by the Academy. By the way, I have a friend who's a comedian who said that like the Academy Award voters, none of them watch the movies.
I would out Dennis on that right now, but I'm not going to, Dennis, because I understand that there's possibility that some people from
I'm behind on a couple of movies, but
it didn't stop you from voting.
I'm caught up this year. Everything came to me. I didn't have to leave my house, so I'm totally caught up.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this should be the year where everybody's the most caught up on like what they should have been watching.
Catch me up because I don't know. What? Tell me about Mank. Even though it's a studio film, I should probably know, right?
It's about the writer of Citizen Kane, and it's got Gary Oldman in it, and it's David Fincher. So it's got sort of Hollywood royalty there.
Ooh. Well, it's David Fincher directing his father's script, his late father's script, and his father wrote it 30 years ago, and it kind of seems like it. Like I'm not a fan of Mank, actually. Did you see it, Jeff?
I did see it, and I would say like if you really like watching black and white alcoholics. This is
it's a beautiful film. It's a beautiful movie.
Amanda Seyfried's
great.
You've been waiting for this,
but it just
waiting for it.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I mean,
all right, go ahead. Next, what's up? What else is on the list there, Jeff?
Promising Young Woman, which I hadn't seen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The Trial of the Chicago 7, which I got to be honest, like I turned off because I thought it was so heavy-handed. That I was just like, I like Aaron Sorkin, but like it was just to start out, it was like, okay, I know who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, and I didn't give it another shot. But maybe I will. I mean, it's getting so much shine that maybe I'll go back and watch.
Yes, have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot. Yeah, I liked it a lot. It's very entertaining. I agree with what you're saying, but it's a total crowd pleaser. I mean, the farther you get into that movie, you're like, yes, it's like.
I mean, and I have a copy of Abby Hoffman's Steal This Book. So
cool.
I love Abby Hoffman.
Yeah.
The Father, which is Olivia Colman and Anthony Hopkins, which hasn't come out yet. And I think it's about dementia. So if you gone through this whole pandemic and you feel like you haven't been depressed enough, there are some movies here for you.
You know what's interesting about The Father, and I had no interest in seeing it until I heard this, and that's that it's told from his perspective, and he's losing his
Ooh.
perception on things. And so like he'll walk into a room and here's an actor we've seen, like all of a sudden it's a different actor playing his daughter. And he's like, where's my daughter? It's me. And it like he'll turn around and then the whole set's different. And it kind of like puts you in the position of when, you become disoriented. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't think I've ever seen that in a movie before when dealing with this type of subject. That
actually sounds great. It's kind of sort of blends like the supernatural with like the psychological.
Oh, it's totally. And it's Hopkins. So, I mean, going in, it's going to be a master class in how to do that. So,
Did he become an American citizen?
What's that?
Did Anthony Hopkins become an American citizen? I think I read somewhere that like he almost lost his title.
Don't all Brits become an American citizen at some point, and then they move to Florida?
By the way,
escape taxes.
That was my take on watching the Golden Globes last weekend. Like watching the Golden Globes, that was when America found out that their favorite actors and actresses are British.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, we just now figuring that out.
Rosamund Pike, the actress who was in The Queen's Gambit. I didn't know she was British. And Daniel
Kaluuya
and John Boyega.
Right. Yeah.
All right, Jeff. Keep it moving. Tell me what's next, buddy, because I'm thinking at some point I will have seen one of these.
One Night in Miami.
That was great.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That was great. Oh wait, we're talking about a movie.
Yeah.
No. Tell me about that. Because
it's about One Night in Miami, where it's Malcolm X and Sam Cooke and Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown all hung out after one of Muhammad Ali's fights.
Sounds like the beginning of a joke, Sam Cooke and
apparently it allegedly happened, but nobody knows what happened, and so somebody wrote a play, and then that became a movie, and Regina King directed it, and it's just wonderful. It is just wonderful.
That Regina King's starting to impress me a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she's really doing big things. Okay, so and is this one of the ones that we think has a good shot, or
no?
I think there's a shot for a nomination.
But it's great that it's in the conversation. Being a nominee and it elevates its presence. So it may pull down something, but I mean, it's not probably in the top 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to win it, but I could see it getting a nomination.
Yeah,
but
I know.
Feather in her cap, nonetheless. Her star's going up. Okay.
One of my favorite movies from last year, Palm Springs, because I'm always partial to comedies. But so like when usually in award seasons, I mean, have they ever given the best picture to a comedy? I think they've nominated comedies.
Does Allen count?
What's that?
Does Annie Hall count? I mean, would Woody Allen count?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Does Woody Allen count?
But you're right. That's not something they do much. The comedy will get nominated, but it won't,
That is the one thing that's great about the Golden Globes is they have a separate category for comedy, although they mix it in with comedy and musical, and those are different animals.
Right, yeah.
Well,
Palm Springs was great. I watched it twice, actually.
It's real, and once again, during a pandemic, if you need something adorable to make you feel better, that's your movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to watch Contagion over and over again. I don't know what it is. Some kind of gluttony for punishment. I'm not sure what it is.
What do you think about?
You got jokes there, Jeff. I see the wheels turning.
Yeah. Well,
just unleash the ha-has on us, dude. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There could be kids watching and stuff.
No, are you kidding? There's no kids watching this.
Okay, well, how about this movie? Okay, I'm super curious about this. There's a movie called Music that was directed by Sia, the Australian singer, pop singer.
Who nobody knows what she looks like, right? Yeah.
And it got nominated for Best Musical or Comedy for the Golden Globes. But on IMDb, its rating is 3.1, which is incredibly low.
Right. Yeah.
And so either the Golden Globes are vastly off or everybody is underrated this film. And I read that people are offended by it because of its subject matter, where it's about an autistic young girl who's singing, and people think it's an offensive portrayal.
Is that kind of like last year? Was that movie Darlings or something like? It was a French movie, and then everybody thought it was glorifying, underage girls, over sexualizing underage girls. I can't remember the name.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Honey Babies or something like that, and it was like I didn't get that out of it at all. I mean, was it one of those kind of situations?
I think it maybe like as a society, like speaking of like award films, there once was a day where if you played a like mentally handicapped person, that was like Oscar bait.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like you can't do that. Like, I mean,
right. Well, especially if you're not actually.
Well, and that's kind of the general consensus of the last 5 or 6 years. Not that I'm going to get political or anything, but I mean, it's you hear it a lot, and that's that. Oh, this is so and so is going to play this part, but they shouldn't because they're not. Whatever, fill in the blank. They're not a particular skin color. They're not, transgender. They're not whatever.
Can't be
And the actors, the first thing the actor does is go, it's called acting.
Yeah.
But then they back way off from that once the wave of cancel culture hits.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yep, sorry, I didn't mean to offend anybody. It's a very interesting time that we're in right now. You wonder if the pendulum's going to swing back at some point, or if this is just the beginning of that kind of thing. And if it is, then I'd hate to be an actor.
So happy to go off
as a middle-aged white dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm so happy to go off script here on this one, guys. So bear with me. But I wrote a little thing the other day on cancel culture. I'm just done with it. I think that we have really gone overboard on this political correctness to a point where good actors can't play good roles. Now, look, I'm all for it. If you can find an actor that embodies that, who's got the chops, then by all means that should be top consideration. But this whole idea that actors can't act, I mean it's absolutely ridiculous. The movie that I want to see from Sia is Sia Meets the Phantom, because like Kiss Meets the Phantom. Remember that when you were 12?
Again with Kiss, Martin.
Well, but here's the thing. It's like, or actually, how about Sia Unmasked? That's the one I really want to see, because nobody knows what this lady looks like.
She's not hard to find. Have
we figured it out yet? Because
there's YouTube videos of her.
And I can't tell from videos.
Who's her uncle? Her uncle is somebody like, I think maybe the guy in Men at Work or something like that. I think
really?
maybe.
Oh, really? And James Hay?
So. Do the YouTube thing where, look up on YouTube where she's presenting an award to, God, I want to say it's the guy from Men at Work. But she's
I sure hope it is the guy from Men at Work.
What's that?
I sure hope it is the guy from Men at Work, because that would be awesome.
Yeah. Colin Hay?
Colin James Hay?
Hey, that's what it is. Yes. Jeff, you ought to know these things, being the trivia guy that you are. But I got to say, come on, guys. Can we make a pitch right now for Sia Unmasked? I'm just saying. All right. Go ahead, Jeff.
I'd watch that movie.
I would watch that movie. Hit me.
Yeah.
Colin James Hay will always have my affection because he was in Men at Work, and I love Men at Work. And B, strangely enough, he would show up. He ran with comedians for a while. I saw him at the Punchline. He became friends with a lot of American comedians and
Rando.
Run with them. And I was like, this is awesome.
Nice.
Nice. So you get to hang out with him, because I know you hang in that comedian crowd, dude. That's your
not anymore.
Those are your people.
Not anymore, but it's like I always love it when there are like weird combinations like that. Like, that metal band Tool.
Mm-hmm.
Like the lead singer, he used to run with all the Mr. Show guys. So he's like friends with Bob Odenkirk and David Cross and like all those, like Paula Tompkins. So I'm like, that's a great combination.
That
all
is.
Right, I just did a Google search for Sia Uncle, and I got a Billboard article, and there's her picture, and she's posing with Colin Hay right there.
Nice.
I know what she looks like.
Okay. Well, she's never going to get to make the movie now. It's over for her. All right. Well, maybe she can come back and do a disco act or something.
Back to the topic, the Golden Globes do that. They'll pick some wackadoo movie and elevate it to best whatever, like Johnny Depp playing his 47th same role, and they'll nominate him for best actor.
Sure.
Or like the Pia Zadora thing, which is notorious from 40 years
or
ago.
Al Pacino, Scent of a Woman. It's like, dude, he could do that in his sleep.
Well, the Oscars did give him that, but yes, I hear your point.
Watching the Golden Globes last weekend, the best part of the whole show was at the beginning when Amy Poehler and Tina Fey, they said, and I think Amy Poehler just goes, "We all know that awards don't mean anything, but it's fun." So I think, like Dennis, you said that earlier, where it's like, this is like my Super Bowl. I know it doesn't mean this is the best picture of the year, but it's glamour. You get to like watch these people, and hopefully like someone will fall while it's walking up to the stage, like Jennifer Lawrence did. Who, by the way, the only person who got out of their seat to help Jennifer Lawrence when she fell was what's his name, Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
he deserves an award.
That Wolverine is a known nice guy.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very commonly. Well, I don't know if that movie was to be believed, but I didn't know if they were lip syncing him or not. But sure, I believe it. Well, he's been on Broadway. No, he's actually done a lot of Broadway.
That's true.
Hugh Jackman. So yeah, no, I totally believe it.
Double threat.
All right, Jeff, what's next?
Another movie that I really like, but I don't think it'll get an Oscar nomination, is the Borat sequel.
Right.
If only that one could get nominated for something. But it's not going to be Best Picture. What would it be?
Well, Maria could get nominated for supporting actress. She's got a lot of buzz.
She's amazing. That film, I mean, can we just talk about him for a minute? I mean, I am the biggest Sacha Baron Cohen fan.
I hope he pulls one down for Chicago 7. I really do.
I sure hope so, man. I mean, this guy, they were, I saw some thing on YouTube, and they had all these comedians around a table, and it was Jim Carrey and the Fonz and, some other folks. And Sacha Baron Cohen was there, and they were talking about fame. And he was like, no, honestly, I wouldn't really know, because my entire career I've been playing a character. So I don't get noticed. And when I thought about that, I thought, well, that must really free you up creatively in a way that for Jim Carrey, I mean, he's always doing the Jim Carrey shtick, and bless his heart, and he's extremely good at it. But the point is that Sacha Baron Cohen can just disappear into a character, but not only because he's disappearing into a character, but also for what he's able to elicit out of the non-characters that he's dealing with, which is just absolutely phenomenal. What he did with Rudy alone in this last movie was just that was just like, you can't pay for that kind of stuff. That was just.
Did you see at the Golden Globes he thanked Rudy Giuliani?
He needs
it's funny because everybody, and it was a great year for Black cinema. It was a great year for females directing, and all the attention's kind of going toward Promising Young Woman, which was brilliant. It was great. I had a few issues with actually the filmmaking aspect of it. I wasn't a huge fan of the film itself. I totally applaud where it's coming from, and yes, we need more. That said, I'm watching Borat, and it occurs to me that, like, follow me here, but this movie, while Rudy Giuliani and the shock and all that stuff, but you get into it and it's like, this is your feminist movie right here. This is a movie that starts off with this gal in a barn, and that's our perception. That's some people's perception of women, and you see her come into her own, and especially when paired with that nanny who had no idea what was going on. So great that they're giving her attention right now, just like allowing her to like stuff. But I was like, all right, I'm in. This isn't just a funny Borat sequel, which is what I went in for. This is an amazing, like, subversive character movie about women. You know what I mean? And I was just like,
that's the word. Yeah,
there it is. That's awesome. So that's why I'm so glad it's getting the attention.
So what did he get? Did he get something at Golden Globes? Because I'm sorry, I didn't even see.
He won Best Comedy.
Oh,
yeah,
there you go.
Best Comedy.
Bam.
Yeah.
Right. I feel so much better now.
And he won the Best Actor for a musical comedy.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Which was the only time in Globe's history that anybody ever won for playing the same role twice.
Ooh. That's happened.
One in 2007 as well.
That's happened twice at the Oscars.
That's a good question. I know there was multiple nominee. Who was it?
The character was from The Godfather. De Niro won for playing,
but Pacino didn't win. So nominations, yes.
but
the Joker gets nominated every time. Same deal. But
didn't Brando win?
Brando won.
So for playing the same character, and De Niro played that character in a flashback in Godfather 2.
Wow. Correct. So 2 actors, 1 role. Yes.
Yeah, 2 actors, 1 role, and it happened a second time when Joaquin Phoenix won for playing the Joker.
For playing the Joker, right? Yeah.
And why am I forgetting?
By the way, guys,
Heath Ledger.
I just want to tell you, we've got a couple people in the chat here that are absolutely loving it. You guys are doing fantastic. Love it. And thank you for this. Because I think there's a lot, I really do think that there's a lot of people out there for whom this whole thing is a big mystery. And they do find themselves scratching their heads about how you even get in and then what ends up winning. So I think that these kind of conversations are illuminating both from the artistic standpoint, but also from the commerce standpoint. If I could just on that point though, Dennis, if I could get you to opine, because what for you, how has this pandemic and this new kind of world of everything going to online or, TV, but online mostly first, how has that, in your opinion, changed the dynamic and made it more accessible or what have you?
Well, I'm totally in the minority here, because when I tell my film loving friends this, they're like, "Oh my God, no way." But the thing is, I don't miss going to the theater. And if I go to a screening, you're in there with a bunch of other critics and maybe some audience, but there's definitely a different vibe than when you buy a ticket and go on a Saturday and people are talking and on their cell phones and you got to watch 45 minutes of commercials. It's a whole different thing. And so when I think about those 2 experiences, sure, I'll drive into the city. And the other thing is, it's just kind of become a hassle to drive in and go to a screening. I love it and I'll do it. And there's certain movies that need to be seen on the big screen, I think. But I got a 60-inch 4K I bought last July, and I just sit close and I turn it up, and I got a great system in here, and I am not missing $20 buckets of popcorn, and I am not missing people on their phone behind me. I'm loving it. I am loving it. And then HBO doing and the Warner Brothers day and date, which was super bold and pissed off the entire industry. I'm loving that too, because that means I get to watch movies in 4K, that I wouldn't have otherwise gone to see at the theater. So I've seen more.
I mean, other than the fact that you want to see a Star Wars movie on the big screen or something like that, but
that's actually the last time I went to the theater was to see Star Wars.
I believe that. But I mean, there's no nostalgia for you whatsoever?
What's weird, here's the weird part. I have, when it comes to, like, I'll go to screenings. Let's take screenings out of this. But when I buy my ticket, when I decide I'm gonna buy a ticket and take my family and go to the movies, the movies that I've most done that with are these reissues. Something I have on my shelf, but I could go watch Close Encounters or Jaws or Smokey and the Bandit or Wrath of Khan on the big screen because I don't get, you know what I mean? It's like those are the tickets I've been buying. I always throw my tickets in a thing. I was cleaning up my drawer here a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, Close Encounters, Jaws, and I'm like, the only thing, Die Hard, the only thing I'm buying a ticket for are movies that I've seen.
Also, Dennis, I love that you got Wrath of Khan in there. Good job.
Oh, man. Oh, I got a big Wrath of Khan poster right here.
We're not worthy, Wrath of Khan.
Oh, dude, like Mr. Rourke from Fantasy Island.
Dude.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Rourke from from Khan from the old Star Trek. I mean,
You bet.
That's what got him that gig. It wasn't his turn as Mr. Rourke. I'm pretty sure. But Jeff, just on that point, I mean, you're a guy. You live downtown. You live in the Mission District. I mean, you walk out of your house and you're, hello, my baby. You're in the thick of it. But I mean,
unfortunately, I tend to agree with Dennis here, where it's like it's more accessible to watch stuff at home. Although I will say there are some movies, like I ventured out to see Tenet in the theater. And like, I can't imagine watching that even on a really good home theater.
Right.
Like it's like one of those movies you sit up close, and it's loud and it's an experience.
Yeah, right.
But would I go and watch Nomadland for the presentation? No, it's still a great movie, but I can watch it at home. It does feel like that's the way everything's going. Like, the actual like theater chains are going under, and it's just I feel like people are just gonna demand to watch it from home. Streaming. I mean, streaming was huge this year.
No, 100%, and for obvious reasons. But then again, in this point about the new normal, that's what I'm trying to get to. Is what is the new normal out of this? Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, so we'll come back in 5 years and see if I'm right or not. But I think what's going to happen is that these cinema chains are going to gobble each other up, and after a while, we're going to have less theaters. It's going to be more of a marquee, like Star Wars, Superman kind of thing. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to get so used to watching things at home that the big screen is going to be like vinyl. People are going to rediscover it for the things that they like about it. Yeah. And people are going to be like, I like that big screen. I like that big sound. I like that experience.
You're right.
It's going to be a finite thing as opposed to the mainstream thing.
And I wonder, one of my dearest friends, a guy named Matthias Bombal, who was born, decades too late, but he was the guy who he's done a lot of support with renovations of theaters like the Fox and the Paramount, and in Sacramento, the Crest. And he was the impresario. I remember when I was a kid, like 1982, 16 years old, going out to the Crest to go watch, Weird Science or whatever it was at the time. And you're getting the whole like 1940s experience, including like the orchestra in the pit, you know what I mean? And the whole thing. And then Matthias mentioned something a long time ago, and it always has stuck with me. It's like, and we don't think about it, but the term, that's where I came, or where did you come in? That's where I came in. And it's like, okay, that's where I came in, right? Well, that was an old theater term because the movies, you think about it, you would have a newsreel, you would have the cartoons, then you would have like a little orchestra in a pit playing and all these different things, and you would have
they'd loop all day.
And it would just go all day, and it was like it wasn't like there was no show times.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It was like what was the part? That was the part where I came in. That's how people
Jeff and Marty, tell me what you think of this. My other theory about staying at home is that when they switched over to the digital projection stuff, now on some screens, amazing. IMAX, got it. But like your average, 1230 Cineplex, whatever, if I'm going to go in and watch a movie, I'm watching a letterboxed digital presentation. It's not as crisp as film. It's I'm sure the sound is there. Maybe it looks pretty good, but I can always spot the seams. It's always, I remember, we're all talking about going to see old movies and stuff and what it's like to go. When you were talking about the restoration of the theater, I have a very crisp memory of what Star Wars looked like on the big screen, and I also remember what the last one looked like with the digital projection. And to Tarantino's point, it ain't the same. And the thing is, like, I went to go see, and here's the sad thing. When I had my chance to go screen the last Tarantino movie, there was a little theater in San Francisco, the only one doing 35 millimeter. I thought, that's cool. I'm going to go do that because I haven't seen a 35 millimeter movie in a long time. I'm not going to out the theater, but I will tell you my experience. I go in there and it's a tiny little place, which is fine. And then we go in and it's a tiny little screen at an awkward angle. And I'm like, okay. And I got my seat and I'm watching my tiny little presentation and it looked okay. It was a super small screen. And then the reel got done and the lights came up after an hour and they're like, okay, we have to change the reel. So it's going to be about 5 minutes. And I thought, wow, like less than 10 years after going digital, we've lost the art of being able to change the reel in the middle of the thing and creating this awkward experience. It was horrible. It was horrible.
I should probably have a projectionist on here.
Yeah.
Because projection is
an art form, dude.
Art. I hate to say it, but there might, and these guys, I hate to say it and to sound this way about it, but these guys are dying. The guys that knew how to do this and then knew the presentation of film.
I was a projectionist in high school and in college.
Oh,
and
cool.
So,
okay.
like, Dennis, what you were talking about, like they probably had a changeover system where they didn't have the other projector working. So they're like, okay, we have to take this reel off and put the new one on. But
Gotcha.
like, that just seems like they didn't either it was like,
but that's still to the point. If you don't have two working projectors, hot swap like that, you know.
And then if you have like a large theater,
you know how often you're using those projectors.
Right.
And if you have a large theater, they have a platter system where you have to build the movie up.
I remember that. We used to have a little theater here in town, and on many occasions I'd make pals with whoever was running it at the time, and we'd get free screenings the night before. So I hung out in many a booth watching that process. Yeah.
I had a friend who worked at Alamo, and I told her, I was like, yeah, I'm a projectionist if you ever need a projectionist. And she was like, oh, no. That means you know how to put a new disc into the player? And I was like, oh, no. Oh, so you don't have...
Yeah, I know how to hit a button and walk away.
Yeah, I could do that. If you ever need anybody.
Exactly, I'm your man.
All right, guys. What now? So we don't give it short shrift. Let's see. I think I lost count here. I think we've gotten about 6 movies in. What do you think? Any other contenders? I mean, we don't have to go 20 movies deep, but any other real contenders?
Well, I think Nomadland's going to do well. The other thing about Oscar and award season voting in the last few years, which I think is kind of cool actually, is that they do spread it around. So at the end of a season, you'll have movies that kind of win for the right reasons. Like I love the Blade Runner sequel. I think I was maybe one of 3.
Then the 3 of us are here.
We're the 3. We're the 3 that like that film.
Love that film, and it won more Oscars that year than anything else. And same thing with Mad Max Fury Road, which was friggin' phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it won more than anything else. And then they're like, well, this movie won Best Picture, won 2 awards, but it won Best Picture, like Green Room or something like, not Green Room. What was that? Green Book?
Green Book, yeah.
And I'm like, really? Okay, because if you go, what's hilarious about this whole award season and Oscar thing is if you actually go back 80 years or 90 years, whatever it is, to the definition of what the Academy Award represents, like in its description, it is meant to honor the films that further the art of motion picture storytelling. And how do look at the movies that won in the last 15, 20 years. How have most of those advanced any art? And what's happened is that it's the screenplay winners, it's the technical awards. Those are the movies you're going to talk about in 20 years.
That's true.
You're not going to talk about Green Book, even though it was a wonderful movie of the week on TV. You're not going to talk about that, And that happens a lot where there's this general popularity consensus or rubber stamping or whatever. Yeah, Nomadland's probably going to win. But it was a wonderful 2 hours.
Let me ask you this though, because Nomadland has really got the push behind it. I'm seeing it all over the place.
Sure.
I mean, it's really getting the and so I guess kind of what plays into that, because okay, if you go back, and again, of course, poster child for this, of course, is Star Wars and Annie Hall. Right? Annie Hall wins Best Picture. Meanwhile, Star Wars wins everything else, like you're saying, and it's the only movie that we're talking about all these years later out of the 2.
You're right.
But I guess the question for me is how is that possible in this day and age where these movies aren't going to make that much money, even if what I'm getting at is why would the studio put so much money and put their chips behind a Nomadland? Not to take anything away from it, and I'm sure I haven't seen it. I'm sure Frances McDormand is fantastic and the movie's fantastic, but I'm just saying, why would a movie make that bet when the return on it is probably going to be less anyway?
Because there's never been a farther chasm between what's popular and what's good.
Yeah.
And in the 70s, if you look at the most popular movies were also the best reviewed movies. And they're the ones that lasted: Godfather, Jaws, Star Wars, and then that started to separate in the 80s, big time. And now it's a joke where, well, if the critics liked it, I'm not going to like it, harumph. Well, okay, let's meet in the middle somewhere. And that's that, I don't know how these movies ascend through award season. I don't. I really couldn't tell you. I can tell you, you know, Nomadland was a soulful, powerful, ripped my heart out, made me cry numerous times. And profound experience, took me to a different world. And when it was all done, all I could think about is that there was no story, there was no arc. Frances McDormand's character didn't grow, stubbornly didn't grow. Nobody else around her grew. And I was thankful for the opportunity to hang out in a world that I'd never considered before. But at the end of the day, there's no lesson from that film that I will ever carry with me. And I think the most profound, affecting movies that do move the needle stick with you.
Yeah.
They change you to a degree.
You have an emotional response to.
Right. I had an emotional response to it, but there's nothing about the film that inspired me to think differently. You know, there's other One Night in Miami inspired me to think differently. I mean, there's movies out there, you know, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom inspired me to think a little differently. There's these movies that if they're doing Sound of Metal, holy Christ, what a film.
That's a good
movie puts you in this man's shoes and made me hear things differently. So I think if you're doing it right, the cinematic films we should be acknowledging are the ones that truly put you in a different head.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And forward the medium in some way.
That's right.
So I have a question here. I guess kind of to our point, are you surprised that Tenet wasn't considered for more things or for a certain category?
Well, Jeff, what did you feel about Tenet? Because I have an opinion. It sounds like you liked it.
I liked it a lot, but I would like to see it maybe like 3 more times just to figure out what the hell happened. Because I mean, to address that question, it should get nominated for multiple technical awards. But it is one of the most unique movies I've seen and I'm not giving anything away here, but there are action scenes that are going forwards and backwards in time, which it was very hard to follow, but it's definitely unlike anything you've ever seen. But I liked it, and I liked Denzel Washington's son in it.
Okay, all right.
It was,
so,
you know, I liked him in a movie everybody hated, which was called Malcolm and Marie, which was went to Netflix, him and Zendaya. But Tenet, I had to turn it off. I couldn't do it.
Really?
I got about and I'm not really giving anything.
I knew that. I knew that when I saw the movie. I was like, Dennis isn't going to dig
No,
it.
I love a challenging film. I really do. I love movies that just break the brain.
Because of the challenge of it, but just because of
yeah, and I don't mind Sound and Fury. That's good. You know, that's fine. Pummel my senses. That's good. But I went through the opening sequence and I'm not, Jeff, maybe you can clarify this for me. The opening sequence drops you into a situation where I have no idea who I'm rooting for, what I'm watching, what's happening. I know people are running around and things are shooting and exploding. And again, I'm good with all that. But after about 15, 20 minutes, I thought to myself, I really have no bearing here on the world or what I'm. And again, I loved Memento, which was a similar type of backward, you know. So I like that kind of thing. I like I'm the guy for this movie, and I got about 20 minutes in, and I'm like, this is giving me a headache.
It's hard for me to articulate, but I'm with
I gotta tap out, and I want to go back to it though. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what's just confusing. I guess I don't know. But all right, guys, listen. We have about 4 minutes left. So I want you guys to give me I want you to bring it home for me. Just give me your take. We haven't, and by the way, I apologize to everybody who's been waiting to hear their favorite film that we didn't mention, because there's a list. It's quite an extensive list. And we haven't, I mean, I haven't seen hardly any of them, but you guys haven't seen the whole list. But if you could just give me a pitch why you think a movie, your favorite movie, should be Picture of the Year. Let's go. Let's start with you, Jeff. Go ahead. I know, Dennis, you're ready to chomp on the bit on this.
No,
one.
I'm not. I have no idea. I got nothing. While Jeff's talking, I'm going to look at a list because.
All right, look at the list. Jeff, what do you say?
Well, like I mentioned before, I think Palm Springs is my emotional favorite because I like comedies. But another movie that I really liked is called Never Rarely, Sometimes Always. But it's a very depressing movie about a young woman going to get an abortion. So keep that in mind before you get into it. I really like the movie First Cow, which is on Showtime now. That's probably not going to get a nomination.
But what is your? I mean, I'm just talking about your personal favorite. That's all I'm asking.
It's probably Palm Springs.
Okay. Now, other than the fact that you like comedies, what was it that did it for you?
I think it was really adorable. Like, it's a romance, and I think maybe in this year I was really looking for something like that. But it was like a feel good movie, and it had a great sense of humor. And I don't know, I very much like Andy Samberg.
Yeah, he's fantastic. All right, Dennis, you've had a chance
Palm Springs had an outstanding script. It was extremely well written, and when you watch it a second time, like I did, it's like you're like, oh, that was really well done. That's a good one. I can't tell you my favorite. I can tell you the things. I've responded in unexpected ways to certain films, and I'll tell you the one that sticks with me recently, although nobody really likes it. And that's a movie that's on Hulu right now, which is called The United States versus Billie Holiday. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, I don't like Lee Daniels. I appreciate what he's done for Black cinema. I just don't like him as a filmmaker. I don't like his style. And so I went into this with my arms folded, harumph. I'm watching this because I have to. And what I loved about it was that the costume design, the world they created, I felt like I was back in the 1940s and the 50s. But Andra Day, oh my God, I couldn't stop watching because I haven't seen a performance that strong in a long time.
All right.
And she won the Golden Globe.
She did win the Golden Globe. That's the one I was thrilled for. I was like, man, and I've talked to other voters and they're like, don't vote for her because she was good in a crappy movie. And I'm like, yeah, but isn't
so I haven't seen it, but you said that people don't like it. I thought it was getting some shine.
It is getting some shine. It's a tough film to watch. I think the people who don't like it, when I say people, I mean like other voters and other critics. And it's kind of a hot mess of a film. Lee Daniels does this thing where he'll just throw some virtuoso sequence in there, but then there's some black and white, and here's some stock footage, but here's a slow motion thing, and you're just like, dude, stop, just tell a story. But the thing is, when the movie settles down and we're looking at her, it's so powerful. It's so good. And
I'm going to put that one on list. I'm not a big Lee Daniels fan, but I'm going to put that one on list.
I'll watch it.
He may have accidentally made the best movie of his career.
And we may have accidentally made the best podcast of Saturday, the 6th at 12:30 in the afternoon. Gentlemen, we're out of time. We're completely out of time, but I want to thank you guys because this has been truly, truly illuminating. And Jeff cannot wait to get one more word in, even though he sees me trying to segue to the end. Go for it, Jeff. It's got to be good.
Martin, did you say this is the first podcast you did?
No.
I thought you said this was the first one in the series.
It's our inaugural podcast for this series. Would you guys like to come back and join me for another one?
Love to. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
This is the best one you've ever done.
It is. It's the best. It's the best. The breakdown we've ever done until the breakdown 2, which will be next first Saturday. It's every first Saturday. And again, folks, you want to go check it out on that website, CaliforniaFilm.net, where, by the way, you will find all kinds of other resources. Next week, in fact, we're going to have a screenwriters program, and then we'll have an actors program on the third Saturday. And these have been amazing, and we're all presenting them all online and live now because, for the aforementioned reasons. So with that said, I just want to thank you, Mr. Dennis Willis. It is soundwavestv.com.
Correct, sir.
And you've got to go there, or if you're in the Bay Area, turn on Coffee 20, or not for nothing, you can even watch that little goofy public access station, Pacific Coast TV, and that's PacificCoastTV.tv, PacificCoast.tv if you want to check that out. Jeff, where can we be seeing you next?
Probably on that show Cops. That show.
On your buddy's couch.
It's like I'm the guy without the shirt on. I'll be doing laundry until I get vaccinated.
Well, maybe we'll catch you out right here on the breakdown. And again, for the breakdown, this is Marty and I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. It's really been a blast. And tell a friend about this kind of stuff. I mean, we need the support of folks, and it's CaliforniaFilm.net, California Film Foundation. Dennis, Jeff, thank you guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Mark.
sir.
Brothers.
Good time.